Doctor, President-elect of the High Council of Time Lords.
I am definitely a madman with a box.
Anyone for jelly, baby?
I'm the Doctor. I'm 904 years old. I'm from the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of Castabras.
Hey you fans, welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
Welcome to episode 75. Big news this week, buddy.
Big news. Oh, it's a whopper of a news.
Yes. We'll, we haven't really been that vocal on it on Twitter and stuff. Purely because I don't think that's the right place to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Just because it's like little tiny digs and comments and thoughts, and you can't really make head or tail of it. So, but it's been extremely entertaining watching Twitter though over the last week, I must say.
Oh, it's been brilliant. Oh yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like handing the Twitterverse a live hand grenade, and then running away and watching the fireworks.
Oh, it's been great. I just love it. Just fandom has exploded, hasn't it? Literally.
It has. Yes.
Yeah.
So I hope you guys have had a cracking, fantastic week. We've been diving back into Modern Who this week, haven't we? Checking out some of the Ecclestonisms. Yeah,
it's great to see a bit of more of Chris, actually.
It has been, I must admit. Miss old Chris.
Yeah, I do. Did you ever see that thing I was talking about of him? Where he was doing the classical thing as the Doctor, because someone else posted it on Facebook the other day and they said the same thing. He was definitely channeling the Ninth Doctor.
Oh no, I haven't seen that actually. No, I will do though, because it sounds so. Is that the video where he was completely unrelated to Doctor Who, but he was just very much in? You could see there was that bit of character coming through, was it?
Yes, the way he was dressed and everything, and the way he was acting it, and it was something on over Christmas to do with classical music. I can't remember what it was called, but it was just interesting to see him being so Ninth Doctor like after all this time.
Okay. Cool. Old Chrissy.
Old Chris.
Yeah. So yes, we will be getting on to the big news and stuff in a little while, after a couple of other cool little news bits.
Yeah.
Firstly though, my good fellow, how have you been this week? Been up to anything cool, Doctor Who wise?
I've been really good. Yes, I was up in central London on Sunday and I nipped around a few little shops very quickly. I didn't have. We were actually going for a meal, so I didn't have time to do the usual haunts that me and you go to, like Forbidden Planet and all that. But
the stomping grounds.
It was torture for me because I was so close to all of them. But I got to do a bit of window shopping. Apart from that, not too much. But I did watch the Real Exotic Marigold Hotel thing the other night with Sylvester McCoy.
Oh man, I missed it.
Oh, you didn't?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's really, you've got to get it on iPlayer because it's really good. It's really interesting.
Oh, man, I really wanted to see that as well. There was a few people popped up on Twitter to say they absolutely loved watching Sylv in that.
Yeah,
and
he was really good.
Yeah, apparently the programme's very good anyway, overall.
It was, because they've got a really good bunch of characters, and for anyone that doesn't know, it's basically a programme on BBC Two, Sylvester McCoy and a group of other sort of celebrities. I guess, what would you call them? They're in their golden years?
Yeah, that's a polite way of saying OAPs, basically.
OAPs, yeah. They've gone out to India to see if it might be somewhere that they would consider to retire. We talked about it on last week's show, didn't we?
Yes.
It was really, really good. I mean, as I said, they've got a great bunch of characters. You've got Wayne Sleep. Who's the big lady? Marion Margolis.
Margolis,
that's very, very, very forthright in her views and stuff, but it was great. And India, I mean, I've never been to India, but it looks like an incredible place. It's just mad. I mean, when they get in these little trucks and the traffic just doesn't stop. It looked quite a sort of scary place, but everyone seems so polite and calm, and they were doing all these sort of exercises in the garden where they would sort of have to poke their tongue out and scream, and Sylv was really getting into that. And it was just fantastic. They were just saying it is just such a a spiritual like place. You know, even if you're not spiritual, you just sort of feel something different when you're there because it's just such an amazing place. And of course, at the end, because they're all entertainers, they all did their own little bits of camera, and Sylv got his spoons out, of course, which I was waiting for.
Yes.
And one of them's a chef, so she was cooking for them all. And Wayne Sleepy's like a ballet dancer, isn't he? Is it ballet? Does dancing.
Yeah.
So he did a bit of tap dancing, and so they all did their own little party piece at the end for all the sort of people that had been working with them in the place. And I think it's a 3-part series, so obviously it continues again next week. It's really worth watching. It was really good fun.
Oh, I'm bummed that I missed that, because when we spoke about it on the show, the idea of it and watching Sylv just being completely bonkers around these other people.
Yeah,
it seems really funny. So so that's going to be that's a BBC thing, isn't it?
It's on BBC Two at the minute, and I assume there are other places you can find it. As I say, it'll be on the iPlayer by now.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, but it's definitely worth catching up on. It was good fun. Yeah.
Oh, nice one.
Yeah,
good stuff. Up to anything else? Or was that,
no, mate. No, that's it. I've had a very sort of a busy work week, but not any fun. It's been all work and no play, really. Apart from that, yeah. That's been the highlight of my week, really, television wise.
Sure.
Yeah. What have you been up to, mate?
What have I been up to? Not a lot, really, buddy. Other than watching Dalek a couple of times, which I've really, really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I did actually. I was my Sky Plus planner was pretty much full up, so I was going back through and deleting a load of stuff out of there, and I went back to the first page, and I kept the Doctor Who proms.
Oh, right.
That was on like 3 years ago. I think it's been in the Skybox for like 3 years now.
Yeah.
And I've only watched it once, I think, because that was the one that I went to, and I watched it when they didn't put it on TV for like months later. And I remember recording it and watching it once then. And I stuck it on the other day. And I really hope they do another one of those.
I would. Yeah, I'd love it.
I really hope so, because it was such a fab night. And I managed to pause it just at the bit where I was on the telly.
Oh, really? You're on it, are you?
Which was sweet. I mean, you can't really miss me, because I'm wearing this... I don't know why, but I'm wearing this really insanely bright pink Ralph Lauren polo top. And it stands out like no one's business, because it just, as a matter of coincidence, everybody like that sat around me in that part of the audience was wearing like black or dark brown or dark blue or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm there in this bright pink top, and
but you really stand out.
Yeah, but the atmosphere was superb at that night. I remember it so vividly, and I hope they do another proms. A Doctor Who one anyway, because I know it breaks the internet and the booking system just goes nuts, but if you can get tickets, it's really worth going to if they do it again. It's superb. So so I watched that, brought back some memories. That was cool. And other than that, not much, mate.
You'll have to send me the time codes so that when I can watch it, I know exactly where to pause to see you.
Of course, yeah,
that's cool. I do that on the what's the one of the other prompts, because I couldn't go to that one. I went to one, I think it was either the year before or maybe even the year before that. It was the one that Karen and Matt Smith hosted.
Oh, yeah, that was 2 years before that.
2 years before. Yeah. And it's on one of the DVDs. I think it's A Christmas Carol. Yes. And there's a bit on there where it's really sad. But I do pause it because you can clearly see me and my partner sat in the aisle, and I'm taking a picture of a Jadoon walking down the stairs, and you clearly see me for about 1 second.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's long enough, and so I do the same. I like every time I'm watching, I'm thinking, I'm coming up in a minute, and I'm going to pause it. And the sad thing is, every time I do pause it, the only thing that goes through my head is, I can't fit into that shirt I'm wearing anymore. Like wearing this checkered shirt, and I'm like, that used to be my favourite shirt.
Oh.
Yeah, and it no longer fits. But yeah, they are great, and obviously, with the news coming up that we're going to chat about with the long break that we're going to have before we get any new Who, I just would love some of these things to be announced to fill in that time, because I was thinking this the other day, even if they did another convention, I might be tempted to go now just to have something Who related to look forward to. So I would love it if they did some proms and things like that. Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. Because there's a couple of cool pieces of new music to stick in from Capaldi's era.
Yes,
that would work really well.
Yeah.
As well as
and it does sound so immense when it's like blaring out from a stage as well. It's really good stuff live, isn't it?
Yeah, it's awesome. And this one that I'm talking about, I think it was 2013. I think it was, 2013, I think it was. And it was the prom where they had the classic radiophonic workshop guys.
Oh, yeah.
Who did the classic theme and some bits from Classic Who's. They did a bit from Caves of Androzani and Seeds of Doom and some really cool little classic pieces of music, An Unearthly Child, and some really cool classic bits that just, it's one thing listening to it on CD or Spotify, but when you're there at the Albert Hall and it's right in your face and, chills. I love it.
Who hosted that one? Who was the person doing it?
That was Matt Smith and Jenna Coleman.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
And it also had Strax and Vastra, those guys. So Dan Starkey, and I forget the actress's name who played Vastra, but it also had Peter Davison and Carol Ann Ford.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, I do remember now.
Yes.
Yeah. No, they're really good.
Yeah, very, very cool. So it's a bit bummed that they put the edited version out. They put it down to, I think it was an hour long or 45 minutes on the TV. And they missed out some really cool pieces of music in the TV edit. But still cool.
Most surprisingly, I remember they missed out because Murray Gold did a specially composed piece for the 50th or whatever, didn't he? Or something. I can't remember. He did a specially composed piece for that one.
He did. Yeah.
And they cut it out.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, that's an odd choice of thing to cut, because obviously I don't think it's ever been released. I can't remember what it was for now. It seemed really odd that they didn't include it.
Yeah, it is really odd. And they also cut out this really cool piece called the Companion Suite, where they basically just played all of the from Rose. They just played all of the companion suites one after the other. I think there's like 5 or 6 different pieces of music they played, and that was really good, that as well. And the audience was going nuts as well. So every time the music changed, especially when Rose's theme was on, people going nuts, and then when Donna's theme came on, the place just erupted, and it was really good. So I'm surprised they cut that as well. But
I remember that from the one we went to at Wembley.
Yes, they did the same.
They played it there, didn't they? Because I remember Donna getting an amazing response. Because I think I said to you at the time, God, I wonder if Catherine Tate knows how much, there is such a big quarter of fandom that really loves Donna's character. Yeah. I know there's some that don't. There's always going to be, two sides to it. But yeah, she really gets a big cheer when they do that piece.
Yeah. She's very popular.
And I'm one of the ones that love her. Yeah, I love Donna.
Yeah. Dr. Donna.
Dr. Donna.
Right. Should we do the news?
Yeah, let's get into it. Time to talk about it.
Let's land it and let's do it. That Mr Capaldi, he's a busy chap.
He's a busy chap, yeah. He's found time to have a haircut and grow a beard in the space of a week.
Yeah. So the Doctor himself, Mr Capaldi, has been on a bit of a research in sort of good gestury, humanitarian trip, I would say. So he's taken time out of his schedule, and I know that they're not actively filming any Who at the moment, but he's still a busy chap because he's doing other stuff as well as Who. But this is really cool. So he's gone over to Jordan in Syria to visit some of the refugee camps over there. And there's some really good photos and a couple of videos for his travels there. And I don't know if you've seen the video that went with it.
Yes, I did. I watched it yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, one of the pictures and stuff. So he's done it for the United Nations. I can't remember what the other letters stand for, the UNHCR. As basically to try and get some exposure onto what's happening to these refugees over in Syria. And the thing that I like about this, and the reason why we're mentioning it, is because it's not done around the same time that some of the celebrities do this stuff around comic relief or that stuff. It's just completely unrelated to all that stuff. It's just him trying to make a little bit of a difference, I suppose, and get some exposure into what's happening, which is fairly dreadful. If you watch the videos or anything like that, you can see that it's clearly affecting him as well.
Yes,
he's he's quite emotional about it, and I really like this about Peter Capaldi, because it's not like he's contractually obliged to go and do it. It's not like, and he's been absolutely just completely stacked, hasn't he, the last year or so doing Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And I know if it was me just finishing doing all that Doctor Who stuff, I'd have been like, right, I'm taking a few months off. If you want to find me, I'll be on the sofa or in bed. So I think it's very, very cool that he's out and about doing this stuff, and it's a really good cause as well. So huge props to Mr Capaldi for being out there, and we'll stick a link to this article and a video in the show notes so you can check it out. It's worth watching.
Oh, it definitely is. It's a really good little video, actually. As I say, I watched it yesterday, and obviously he's narrating over it, and it's very heartfelt, and it's really, really worth watching. Yeah.
It is indeed. So well done, Capaldi.
Good old
Good
Capaldi.
stuff. Yeah.
Right. In other news, I love this bit of news. There's a Kickstarter project that's just been launched, and it's basically to help recreate. I don't know if you remember this. Probably not, but in the 1990s there was a Doctor Who pinball table.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, it's got such a nostalgic, quirky charm about it. And basically what this project is aiming to do is to get that pinball table sort of done in digital form. So they basically want to bring it back, but have it as like in a digital format. So it's Far Right Studios are looking to basically add the famous, it was 1992 Doctor Who pinball table to their successful pinball arcade game. And they've got to raise, I mean, it's quite a bit they've got to get, but it's £50,000 or $72,000 is what they're aiming to get. That's just to secure the license for a Doctor Who game,
yes.
Which I find that quite interesting. So now we know if ever we want to do a Doctor Who game in the future, Gary, we've got to just raise £50,000 just to secure the rights.
Yeah, it's $54,000 all in all.
Oh, is it? All right, okay. I thought it was.
Yeah, and they've raised 23,000 so far.
Right, so they're off to a good start then.
So nearly halfway there already, and there's 2 weeks left to go, 16 days. So that's interesting, because when I first looked at this, I thought, how expensive can it be?
Yeah.
So, because when I watched, before I watched this video on their Kickstarter page, I thought, how hard can it be just to, make a video game of a pinball machine? And what I didn't know, after watching the video, was, like you say, it's all down to the licensing rights. So they need to get three lots of different licensing okayed. So they need to get one from the makers of the original pinball machine.
Yes.
Which I think is an American company called Merry or Berry.
Williams/Bally, I think.
Bally. Oh, Bally, yeah. Sorry, yeah. Then they need to get the licensing done with the BBC for the Doctor Who brand and stuff in general. But then they also need to get likeness rights, because on the back part of the pinball machine, where they've got like the little digital display, the faces of each actor who played the Doctor appear on there.
Yeah.
So they need to get likeness rights as well for each of those actors.
It's not an easy task, is it?
Yeah, so that's the thing. But this does look awesome, though. If you watch again, we'll put a link to this so you can see it. But the original pinball machine, the actual physical pinball machine, they've actually got in their office. So they've acquired it, and it's rocking, and it does. I must say, it looks beautiful. I don't know if you guys are into old school retro pinball machines, but this does look. The Doctor Who one looks fantastic. So they've got it there. It's all ready to go. They just need to raise a bit more money to do the last bit of dev work on it, and also this licensing stuff. So
they've got to break it down, because I was reading in this thing about it that actual pinball machine, they've got to sort of deconstruct it and take like high def pictures of all the components so that they can recreate them in digital form and everything. And if anyone's sort of not sure and thinking, what is this pinball game? I think this picture is quite iconic, and no doubt you would have seen it out there somewhere, even if you didn't realise it was part of this pinball game, because it's one of those it's one of those covers, isn't it, that tends to sort of float around on the internet quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because it's such an iconic thing with all the doctors, and you've got Davros at the top and Daleks and stuff, and it's just something about it that's really nostalgic. I would love to see this happen.
Yeah, it's very, and they do, and it's not that much either. If you want to, if you do want to make a pledge to it, and I imagine that playing this would be very cool as well, because it's got all the original sound effects and all that stuff. And the entry level pledge is only $7, which I think is a $5 roughly,
Right.
for about £5. And if you pledge that, as long as the project obviously goes to 100% and it gets done, then you get to have this Doctor Who game on a platform of your choice, whether that's on a computer or a console or something. So
I'm just looking at the picture of Peter, because I was just trying to work out who that was. He's got really long hair on the graphic, isn't it? Is that Peter Davison, that picture?
I think so, yeah, because you can see the cricket jumper and
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but it's retro, it's retro beauty.
It really is. Yeah, it would be just awesome to have it in digital form. I would love it.
Yeah, it'll be cool. Yeah. Right, that's going to do it for like standard news. We've got some big stuff to talk about.
Big news. Yeah.
Yeah. Right, so you don't need us to tell you that it was announced by the Beeb earlier this week. Was it last week or earlier this week?
I was trying to think this morning, because it already seems like quite a while ago, but it was on Monday night, wasn't it? Was it last week? I've totally lost track.
Yeah, I think I honestly can't remember the day it went out, but yeah, Stephen Moffat is off.
He's off, and I love his quote that he says he's being thrown in a skip, and a new guy's taken. I just loved that. I'm basically being thrown in a skip, and someone else is taking over. He said, didn't he, or something to that effect.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that person is Chris Chibnall.
Mr. Chibnall.
Mr. Chibnall, yeah.
Which was, a bit of a bit of a surprise, I would say.
It's strange, isn't it? Because we all knew this was coming, but yet when I was sat there, whatever night it was that we can't remember now, it still was a shock. I'm sure you were the same. I was sat there and I was like, oh my God, because it was sort of, although it was Radio Times that actually broke the news, wasn't it? So a lot of people were like, well, until the BBC confirm it, I'm not believing it. And then about half an hour later, the BBC finally confirmed it. I was thinking, well, shouldn't they be doing this? Anyway, so yeah, we knew it was coming, but it still was quite surprising, wasn't it? I mean, like we said earlier, the whole sort of social media just exploded. Yeah. And it was quite late, wasn't it? Was it about 9:30, 10 o'clock our time?
Something like that.
Something like that. So but it was still quite shocking news, even though we knew that this day was going to come. And I think maybe because it was Chibnall that was announced as the replacement, we were all a bit like, because I suppose he was always one of the ones in the running, but I still was a little bit surprised he was the choice. Yeah,
I was as well, purely because he hasn't been involved in mainstream Who for a while. I mean, it's one thing to say that that he's a massive Doctor Who fan.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the people who have been involved in the show are fans anyway. But I think there was so much lean towards other people who had been involved a bit more heavily and directly with the show, who I think people were expecting it to be. Sorry.
I was going to say, well, Gatiss always gets banded around, doesn't it? That always. Toby Whithouse was one that people, I think a lot of people would have liked actually, but he often gets put in that category as well. Yeah,
I was going to say Mark Gatiss. He's one that constantly gets banded around. So people like that who have had a bit more involvement, with mainstream Who. So I was a bit surprised at Chibnall. And do you know what? I can't really. It's very difficult to either get too excited or too down about it, because he's one of those guys where we haven't really seen enough of him, to really gauge a proper opinion on it yet. Because if we look at what he's done so far for Who,
I think, and you might have to look this up, but he did Power of 3.
Oh yeah,
He
sorry,
did
of course. Yeah.
what's the Zygon? Not Zygon. Sorry, the Cold Blood and Hungry Earth.
Yeah.
And
Dinosaurs on a Spaceship.
Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, because that was the one that immediately sprung to mind, which wasn't great, because I remember thinking, oh no, he's the guy who did Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. But a bit of those stories are a bit... There's nothing wrong with them. I mean, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, I think, is a little bit... probably one of the worst out of the ones we've just mentioned. But like 42, Power of 3... and the Silurian one, that's what I was trying to think.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they're stories that I think are okay, but they're not ones that that stand out to me. I guess what I'm trying to say is his stories that we've mentioned are all a bit meh to me. You know what I mean? They're just okay. They're not stories that I think, there's not one story there where I think, now I really like that one. Mm-hmm. So if he does one like that, you know what I mean? So that's the only thing that worries me. They're all just a bit middle of the road in terms of story for me, which is slightly worrying. But then being a showrunner, I guess, is a totally different ballgame. I mean, look at Stephen Moffat. When he was under RTD's reign, his stories were phenomenal. I mean, The Empty Child, Dr. Dances is still one of my favourites. You got Silence in the Library, which is just a fantastic two-parter.
Brilliant. Yep.
Yeah. His stories, and then when he took over as showrunner, we sort of got a very different feel, I think.
Yeah.
So
maybe it's going to be the reverse then.
That's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and also, he has done some other great TV things. Let's not forget he was really heavily involved with Torchwood. He was basically the Torchwood guy.
Yes.
For all that stuff. So he's definitely been sort of in the scene, if you like. We just haven't really seen much of him in terms of like being on extras for things or many interviews or that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think the thing that maybe swayed the Beeb into plopping him into this position was probably Broadchurch.
I think that, yeah.
Because that just, I mean, in terms of critically being a success, that just skyrocketed out of nowhere, really. And also featuring David Tennant and all that. So I think if that hadn't have happened, maybe not, because I think maybe the Beeb were looking for somebody that has got a real kind of weight to their writing that's, in terms of being the show, not just the normal episode writer, but especially being showrunner. They need somebody who's really got a critically acclaimed, trophy on the shelf, if you like.
And that does give me hope, actually, because although I don't watch Broadchurch, I know that it's very, like you said, critically acclaimed, and lots of people like it. I hear lots of people telling me I should watch it and stuff. So I understand it's obviously well written. So yeah, Chibnall. I don't know, not the obvious choice, but an interesting choice. I think it could be good. He is also the person though that gave us the Cyber Woman, which a lot of people don't like in Torchwood. It's so long since I've watched that, I can't even remember. I don't remember having anything against it, but I remember a lot of people hated that. But yeah, he did do quite a bit on Torchwood, so that's good. And he's a fan, like I said, he's a fan of the show, which can work two ways, can't it? I mean, it can be a good thing, but it can also be a hindrance, Yeah.
He's a very big fan, because I think he was, or he still is, a member of the Doctor Who Appreciation Society.
Oh, is he still? Right, okay, yeah.
Well, I don't know if he still is, but he certainly was before his career got very, very popular. So he was he was on a discussion programme for the BBC.
Oh, yes.
Back in '86.
Yeah. Giving Pip and Jane Baker a hard time, wasn't he?
He was criticising the quality of the show at the time quite heavily, and actually...
yeah.
So, when we say he's a fan, he definitely is a fan. That you can't get away from that. And this also might be a cool thing for him to do in terms of his career with the Beeb, because they have snatched something away from him before. The show Merlin.
Oh,
that was very, very popular. He was actually in charge of getting that off the ground. They gave him showrunner responsibility for that, but canned it.
Oh.
So we did all of that work, and then at the 11th hour, they pulled the plug. But then it came out a couple of years later without him involved at all.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay,
Yeah.
it's interesting.
So the Beeb have given him a little bit of hope before, and then pulled him.
Right.
So this might be a little bit of a revenge gig for him as well, which could be interesting. But so overall, Chibnall, it's quite difficult to form an opinion on what's going to come out of his era at the moment, purely because yes, he's done a lot of Torchwood and he's done a handful of Doctor Who episodes, but he's not really been one of those people that's. It's kind of hard to explain. You know, like Mark Gatiss has been a very good ambassador for the show. He's always involved in something to do with Doctor Who and goes to conferences and convention and does all that stuff. Chibnall's not really done that, to my knowledge anyway, as much.
I'm with you. Yeah, I know what you mean. He's a bit more in the background.
Yeah.
I
So
getcha.
we don't really know too much about him and his thoughts and views. I mean, they'll be kept closely under wraps at the moment anyway. We won't. I don't think we'll know what's coming from him for a while.
A lot of people are just assuming that it's going to go more back to the RTD era, aren't they? And
I'm not sure why they think that.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. I suppose because Moffat had a very, he had his very distinctive, if you like, way of doing stuff. If you like, with all the arcs and the way his writing and stuff. So I'm assuming that they just think because Chibnall's, more. I think they think he's going to be a more straightforward storytelling type writer, I assume. But what's weird is we're not actually going to get to find out till 2018. Which kind of scares me a bit because it makes me sort of wish my life away, which I don't want to do, because it's a bit like the other bit of news, which is that we're not getting any Doctor Who this year until Christmas. It kind of makes me. I keep thinking, right, I'm already looking forward to Christmas, and then it'll be the last series with Stephen Moffat, and I'm really looking forward to all that. But it makes me wish my life away because I'm already wanting to be at that point. And I don't know about you, but I kind of, it's such a mixed bag of news, this, that I kind of feel like I do think the show perhaps needs a bit of breathing space. So I kind of think the fact it's been, that we won't get any this year might be a good thing. I think it perhaps does need a bit of a break,
right,
in that term. But I like the fact that obviously we've got all this confirmed for the next couple of years or whatever. So we know it's not, it's not a hiatus. It's not being pushed into the back cupboard, not to be talked about. There's stuff going on. It's all going to be happening. But there's going to be a bit of breathing space. So I kind of like that. But yeah, it does slightly worry me. I keep thinking 2018 just sounds so far away. And it's like the fact that Stephen Moffat is doing another series as well is again a bit of a mixed bag for me, because it feels like he was we've spoke about this before, pretty sure he was going after The Husband's a River Song.
Yeah.
And it sounds almost like, for whatever reason, and I'm assuming this is to do with Chibnall writing a third series of Broadchurch, is it?
Yeah.
For whatever reason, he's been talked into doing another series of Doctor Who. And I guess that's just until Chibnall's free to take over. So, the timing hasn't worked out from that point of view. But it's also brought in a few factors which I think are quite good. So, but I don't know, what can we expect from Stephen Moffat then? So he's going to be basically doing a whole series that he hadn't really planned on doing. Is he going to have it? Is he going to have the enthusiasm, or is he just going to kind of play it by numbers and right, I'm done?
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? What can we expect from them off next year, or is he going to really ramp it up? Because, yeah, I mean, he thought Husbands of River Song was going to be his last episode, and for me, it was dire. I mean, if that was going to be my, is he going to pull out all the stops next year? Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I read you. The Husbands of River Song wouldn't be the best story to go out on.
I don't think so.
Now,
I think he's still got a lot left in him, don't you?
I do, and this is what I've been thinking about the last couple of days. Do you remember way back when we reviewed Survival?
Yeah.
And I said at the time that I think it annoyed a lot of fans, and probably still does, that the show was cancelled back then. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying that my personal feeling was that it was a good thing.
Yeah. Because
the show at that time had just got away from itself a little bit. and it needed it. I think it really needed to stop then, take a breather, and come back at a later time to, refreshed and all that stuff. Now, if this would have happened at the end of Series 8, then I probably would have had the same kind of feelings, because for me, although I love Capaldi as the Doctor, and I think his first series was really, really good for him, I think Series 8 had more mediocre episodes than it did amazing ones. However, I really feel that both Moffat and Capaldi stepped up their games massively for Series 9.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed Series 9 a lot more than I did Series 8. So I feel in two minds about it, really. I do feel like the whole Moffat era is ready to go. I do honestly feel that. It definitely is time for a change, and it is time for somebody else to take the reins and take it somewhere new. But I'm also interested to see what Moffat can do for Series 10.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like he has upped his game, and some of the stuff that not all of it was good. But certainly I thought that Series 9 started to ramp up and had some cracking episodes. And Capaldi really found his feet, and his performances just went, from up and up and up. So, like I said, one half of me is like, it's time to finish the whole Moffat era and time to, to close it down and all that. But another part of me is like, kind of intrigued as to what the Moff's going to do now. So it's a bit of a strange situation. The thing that's worrying more than anything is the big breaks in between.
Yeah.
So just to recap then, we're going to have no Doctor Who this year apart from the Christmas special. So there's no Doctor Who at all. And then in 2017, at some point, we're going to have Series 10, which is Moffat's last series for Who.
Yeah.
And then in 2018, we're going to have the first series from Chibnall.
Yes.
So really, it's just a case of getting this year out the way. Like you said, wishing your life away a little bit.
Yeah.
Just going into hibernation for a bit until the Christmas special. But it's worrying that we're not going to have any Who for a year.
But they're going to be filming it this year, aren't they? So it's going to be interesting, because we're going to be seeing lots of pictures, stuff's bound to be leaked. So it's going to be really, again, and time does go quick. I'm thinking about when we were talking about Series 9, how quickly that came around. Yeah. So, but it's going to be, it's going to be a torturous wait. The thing is, I just going back to the Moff just for a second, I love Peter Capaldi as the Doctor. I really, really do like him. I do think there are times, though, and perhaps more in Series 9 than 8, surprisingly, where the Moff has written him a bit, I don't know, uneven.
Yes.
I would really like to see both the Moff and Capaldi settle down a little bit in their roles, if that makes sense. Because I just think a little bit like with Matt Smith, I think there is so much potential with Peter Capaldi's Doctor that I don't think the Moffat has tapped into that completely yet. So I'm hoping he does that in Series 10. I hope he really, really taps into Capaldi's potential, because he is a great Doctor, but a bit like Matt Smith, he doesn't always get the material that he should, that's good enough. So I'm hoping that, some of that comes through a bit more in Series 10.
Yes.
The other big question is, will Capaldi leave with them off? Will Chibnall start fresh with a new Doctor?
Yes, that's the other big thing that's been doing the rounds as well, is are they going to do what RTD did with that transition, where it isn't just somebody new coming on, it's going to be a complete change where the lead actor goes along with the showrunner and some other people. So that's another thing that's quite up in the air as well, is will Capaldi stay on for at least a series with Chibnall? Or is it going to be a complete new? Because the RTD era, when that finished, it was very, very, very jarring to me. When Tennant left and RTD left and Julie Gardner, all those people left, and then when the Smith era started, it was almost like it was almost like they didn't really think about any continuity from the past few years,
Right,
which I can understand from a certain perspective. I think it was like, let's almost relaunch the show. Let's not concentrate on anything that's happened in the last few years. Let's just have, a new Doctor, new showrunner, new theme, new music, everything new, and take it in a different direction. But I found that quite jarring, and that's the one thing that really does my head in about the first couple of series for Moffat, is that he doesn't reference anything from the RTD era. There's no continuity. There's no, there is the odd little reference, but there isn't enough for me. So my preference would be for Capaldi to stay on for at least one series with Chibnall.
Yeah.
Just so it's like a nice transition-y period, and then possibly look at a Doctor then if he wants to go. But it is interesting that, once all the fanfare had finished about Moffat and Chibnall, that they then went on to Capaldi, because it is a logical, in terms of like business decisions by the BBC, it is a logical step for Capaldi to go with Moffat, even though he hasn't been around for long. What's the average number of series that a Doctor does? Is it 3?
3 to 4, isn't it?
3
really?
to 4. So
yeah,
it wouldn't be out of character for that role to change at that time anyway.
And we got to think of time-wise as well. Is Peter Capaldi going to still want to be doing Doctor Who, which, let's face it, takes up pretty much the whole year in terms of filming and everything, promotion, and is he still going to be wanting to do that in another 2? Would it be 2 years' time? Or years?
2 years' time. 2 years. Yep.
Yeah, is he still going to be wanting to do that, or is he going to be wanting to move on and do other things? I would love to see Capaldi stay on, like you, for another year with Chibnall and then move on. But I really can't see it happening. I really think time-wise and I think all the other factors as well, Chibnall taking over, I think he's going to want a bit like you said, fresh start. He's going to want his own Doctor. We're going to have a new companion by then.
Yep, true.
So they will have done a whole series. Will they be staying on? I just can't see Capaldi staying on for longer. But I would like him to. I also get the feeling that, and this is, I've got nothing to back this up, it is just a feeling, but I think that perhaps the BBC would like to see a new Doctor come in at that point to rejuvenate the show in their eyes, because we all know that the ratings have dropped, and there is no doubt that there is a certain demographic out there that have abandoned the show. We can't gloss over that. There is a portion of fandom that have dropped off because they don't take to, lots of reasons. They don't take to an older Doctor. They don't think the storylines are as good. There's lots of reasons, but there is no denying that there is a certain quarter of fandom that's dropped off. And I think the BBC really are hoping that when Chibnall and perhaps Series 10 launches, that they get some of that back.
Yes.
And I think that probably in their eyes, and as I say, I've got nothing to back this up, I'm just assuming, I think in their eyes that includes having a new, probably younger Doctor, which is, I can understand. As much as I absolutely love Capaldi as a Doctor, I can sort of see that from their point of view, if you like.
Yeah. And as we're talking about it, and as I'm thinking about it more as listening to you as well, I'd like to just rethink so probably not then for Capaldi to do an entire series in Chibnall's, the start of his era. But what I'd really like to see is is something different with the regeneration then. So not like your typical, paint by numbers thing where at the end of Moffat's era, if Peter Capaldi is going or is going to go along with him, instead of him regenerating into a new Doctor right at the very end, and then we wait for half a year, and then we get a new series that kicks off with a new Doctor, maybe leave it up in the air for a little bit. So have Capaldi run right to the end, and then he's in the first episode of the new series, and that's his regeneration into a new Doctor.
That'd be interesting.
Almost like they did with the movie, with Sylve into McGann.
Yeah.
So that would be quite a good thing. But just let's also not forget though. And I know a lot of people are very, very happy that Moffat's going. But let's not forget though, there have been some good stuff to come out of his era.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I think he's come under a lot of bashing and a lot of stick over the years. But let's not forget that for the last how long has he been involved with Who now? Has it been the last 4 years, 5 years?
5 years, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure for one person to be under, and a lot to get done and a lot to do. And I've seen like some YouTube videos and some Twitter things where people have been like, yes, I'm absolutely overjoyed and this is amazing news that Moffat is going to be buggering off and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Moffat, let's be honest, we wouldn't have had some of the very cool Doctor Who stuff to come out the last few years. So although it's a good thing overall for Doctor Who that he's going, because it is time for a change, let's not bash the guy too much, because he has worked his socks off.
Yeah.
For Doctor Who and the BBC. And while we haven't agreed too much with his storyline sometimes, and, all those Moffatisms where one little tiny story thing will last for 3 years and all that stuff, let's not forget, there has been some great Doctor Who the last few years. So let's not bash him too hard. He has done a good job.
And Chris Chibnall's got this all to come, hasn't he? I think, what was Moffat's quote? Something about it took a lot of gin and tonic to persuade him to accept the job. And I think that's the thing. You talking about that clip earlier about Chris Chibnall when he was younger giving Pip and Jane Baker a hard time on that show. I was thinking, the roles have totally reversed now, and he knows exactly what he's going to be taking on, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. He knows he's got all that to come, because you can never please anybody. It doesn't matter what he does. There are going to be people who love it and people who hate it, and it's the same with the Moff, isn't it? So
yes,
yeah, good luck, Chris Chibnall. I think I'll speak for both of us. We're really looking forward to see what you come up with.
Absolutely, yeah, and yes, I think most fans in agreement that it's a good time for Who to have a change up.
I think so.
Not looking forward to the big break so much, but it's a good job that our podcast is here for you to fill in that time when there's no Who on TV.
No, you're going to be watching a lot of classic this year. A lot of re-watches this year. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, we're here for you. Don't worry.
Yeah,
it's all good. So yes, that's the big news regarding the Moff being thrown into a skip and Mr. Chibnall riding down on a unicorn with fanfare and trumpets playing.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting.
Yes, but we would like your thoughts on this subject, actually. Listeners of the show, jump on Facebook, let us know what you think. We'd be interested to hear. Yes. So I think that's going to wrap the news.
Okay.
Adam, my good fellow.
Hello there.
Hello. What are we reviewing this week?
This week, back to the Christopher Eccleston era, and we're reviewing Dalek.
Where shall I get my orders now?
You're just a soldier without commands.
Then I shall follow the primary order, the Dalek instinct to destroy, to conquer.
What for? What's the point? Don't you see it's all gone? Everything you were, everything you stood for.
Then what should I do?
All right then. If you want orders, follow this one. Kill yourself.
The Daleks must survive!
The Daleks have failed! Why don't you finish the job and make the Daleks extinct? Rid the universe of your filth! Why don't you just die?
You would make a good Dalek.
Blimey.
Classic.
Blimey.
Love that bit.
I'm not making this up, guys and Adam. I've got loads of goosebumps over me right now.
I can see them. We're recording this on Skype.
Yes, you can see the goosebumps from miles away.
Yeah.
So, Dalek from the Eccleston era, 2005, obviously.
Yes.
Robert Sherman as writer on this one.
And the only one he's done for the show, isn't it?
Is it the only one?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's the only one he's done. I mean, he's done lots of other Doctor Who related stuff, but it's the only one he's done for the TV series since it come back, which is a real shame, I think, given how good this one is.
Yeah, I know he's done a bit for Big Finish, but I thought he did another episode. Okay, cool. Yes. So it's been really cool watching the going back to Eccleston, because we've said it many times on the show before. We think he is a great Doctor.
He is.
He is
I
a
love
great
Chris's Doctor. Yeah.
And this episode in particular does bring out a rather dark side.
Yeah, I was just thinking when you played that clip in, is that the first time we get to see Chris's Doctor really losing it like that? Because I think it is. I mean, there's bits where he gets angry in previous stories, but he really goes off the rails in this one, doesn't he? He's really properly terrified. Yeah.
Yeah, he goes from terror to almost like dictator. You know, quite dark.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the plot. The plot's pretty cool actually on this one. They turn up in this. They turn up in America, isn't it? At some point.
Yeah.
In America,
Utah, I think.
Yeah, and they're in this like museum place, which looks like, anyway, there's lots of glass cabinets with various artifacts in it, which he recognises immediately. It turns out it's owned by this guy who owns the internet, which is an interesting concept. Like this mega super rich powerful guy who apparently owns the internet, and his passion is collecting like otherworldly artifacts for his collection.
Yeah.
And one of the pieces he's got, which he reveals to the Doctor is his only living piece, it turns out to be a Dalek, which fell through the net, if you like, when because at this point in time it all revolves around the Time War, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it's about how the Doctor, at this point in the main story arc for Modern Who, was responsible for the destruction of the Daleks and the Time Lords. And so this is before we have all the whole 50th anniversary, you know, Gallifrey didn't burn and all that stuff. At this point in time, the Doctor's very much feels very guilty and responsible for that whole Time War thing. But this lone Dalek has managed to escape, and has landed. I don't know how he got here, which is quite weird. I don't know if he just plonked himself right into this guy's lap or if he was captured. I'm not quite sure. But so he's escaped the Time War. The Doctor and Rose quite swiftly get exposed to this collector's piece. All hell breaks loose. And then we have a quite a sad ending.
Sad. Oh yes, I was thinking a sad ending. I was thinking
quite a sad ending. In
did
fact,
Adam die? No. Yeah.
Did Adam die?
Yeah, we do it. Yeah, it is. Yes, it is quite. Yes, it is actually quite an emotional ending. You're right.
Yes. Yeah. So that's plot. Plot is pretty good.
It's it's a simple plot, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a simple plot, but it's really engaging, I would say. Yeah.
Yes. And I would go so far as to say one of the best Dalek stories, certainly in Modern Who.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do love the two-parter at the end of Chris's reign, actually, the Parting of the Ways and Bad Wolf. I think Parting of the Ways is a fantastic Dalek story as well, but considering that we've just got the one Dalek in this one,
yes,
he's pretty blimmin' terrifying, and he's not taking any nonsense. It's incredible actually that they can make this one Dalek so scary and just just so awesome, really.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I think that's one thing that quite a few people have picked up on. So when we come on a bit later to a couple of our audio reviews and stuff like that, it's definitely something that's more terrifying. Just having one Dalek on the loose. Seems to have a bit more of an effect than having like a million Daleks in an invasion or something. It's just something creepy about it and menacing and the way this was directed as well was pretty good.
It's brilliant, actually. That's one of my notes. Joe Ahern, I think, is that how you say it? Joe Ahern.
Ahern, yep.
Yeah, it's one of the things I just kept thinking all the way through watching this is how well directed it was. It's just, it's really, really top notch the way it's done. Yeah. You know, there are a couple of tiny bits where the effects perhaps look a bit dated, but overall, it's brilliant. You know, when the whole thing, really, really well done.
So, before we get onto the Dalek stuff, story-wise, pacing and all that stuff, I really liked in this one. Mm-hmm. Like you say, I think the direction was very, very good, mostly. And I think it was done well in a sense of there wasn't much set to play with, because this story only really happens in a handful of little locations. You've got like little offices dotted here and there. You've got like the main collection area where they arrive in first of all, and then you've got like this sort of warehousey bit where there's like a showdown with the Dalek and the soldiers and stuff like that. So there wasn't really much set to play with and not much location to work with. So I think that the way the story was moved along and how it was directed was really well done, actually. And it seemed to have these nice, longer establishing shots as well. Because I think there is a case, certainly for classic Who, where one of the things that a lot of people say that they can move quite slowly, which is not necessarily a criticism. It's just a different time. TV, the way it's edited and made is very different now. In terms of pacing and that sort of stuff. But in this one, it just seems that it had a nice mix of like little actiony moments, but some really nice scenes where, especially when the Doctor first sees the Dalek.
Oh yeah.
And then the bit where Rose is in there as well before she touches it, and the obviously the clip that we played a minute ago. Time seems to slow down a little bit, and there was enough breathing space, for the dialogue to really shine through. It wasn't a case of let's very quickly cut to each scene and move on. They really took their time. And I think that's another reason why Chris Eccleston is so good in this one as well, because he has the time to really deliver those lines really passionately, and they give him the breathing room to do that. So pacing wise and stuff, really, really liked it. What did you think to this story then overall?
Yeah, I really love this story, mate. I absolutely love it. It's funny you say about the setting, actually, because I'd forgotten how sparse it is, and it's quite interesting because when they were planning this, obviously this is going to be, first sort of big for them. It's quite a big story, isn't it? The Daleks coming back. Yeah. In the first series of Doctor Who since 1989. So I know they feature briefly in the movie at the start, but you know what I mean. It's quite a big story, so it's interesting that they keep it so contained in this very sort of basic setting. But it works really, really well, and I think you're right. It's down to the brilliant direction. The pacing is fantastic, no pun intended, but it does. There's like the scenes where there's just scenes where the Dalek just stops, and it's just looking and assessing everything around it, and it's like there's nothing really happening, but it's just so engaging because it's quite tense at times, isn't it? So there are just there's lots of long shots where stuff is just you're just taking everything in, and it works brilliantly. I really, really enjoyed it.
And it was only filmed, I'm just looking up at the filming locations at the moment. It was some of it was done at the National Museum in Cardiff.
Oh well, that'll be the beginning bit.
The beginning bit, and then everything else was shot the following day at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff.
Oh, right. Underground by the looks of it.
Yeah.
I must just say, while you're talking about that museum bit, I do love that bit, because one of the first notes I made, actually, was what a beautiful shot of the TARDIS landing. Now, that might sound really simple, but again, I don't know if this comes back to direction or what, but it's just glorious. It just sort of fades in and out right in front. It's a glorious opening shot. Yeah. And then you get some really nice throwbacks, because obviously this museum's got like lots of little bits that this nutcase Van Straten has been collecting. So you've got a Slovene arm, and of course you've got this Cyberman head from the classic era. Now you can imagine the first time I saw this, just going nuts about that, because it looks brilliant. It looks like the Revenge. No. Yeah, Revenge of the Cybermen. Yeah. It looks like that era, the Tom Baker one. I really wish they'd used that when the Cybermen came back, because for me, that knocks the new design into a cocked hat. I think it looks fantastic in this. Weirdly enough, I did notice this strange CGI thing in the background when we get two long shots of that corridor, and I didn't know what it was, but I'm going to go back and rewatch it because apparently it's a mechanoid from the William Hartnell, The Chase, and I love the mechanoids. They're such a clumsy design. I just love them, and I didn't realise that's what it was meant to be because it's kind of in the shadows in the background. It's obviously CGI, I guess. So so I'm going to go back and watch that because I noticed it but didn't realise it was meant to be a mechanoid. So yeah, I just love that opening scene. Just some really nice little shoutbacks. Comes back to the pacing that you were saying as well, because it's, you know, it's not an action scene. There's nothing happening. We just got the Doctor arriving and Rose. They're taking in the sights. It's just a really nice scene. Yeah,
it's very good.
Before we get into the action,
yeah, and then we're pretty much into it straight away. Really, there's no dilly dallying around. They get captured by security, and then it doesn't take long for the Doctor to figure out, you know, this guy's number, and it's cool when the Doctor first realizes, because when he says to him he's a collector and all the rest of it, and he says I've only got one living piece. It's at that moment in the story where everything changes, because you can see the Doctor's face immediately worry. You know, he doesn't know what it is. Interesting that when he gets into the room and it's quite dark and he can see the blue glow of the Dalek's eye stalk, it's interesting that he still doesn't know what it is. It's not until the two lights light up as he's speaking that he absolutely wheezes his pants.
It's a great scene then, the way the lights just come on, sort of almost like when you go in a warehouse, it's almost as if 3 or 4 lights slowly click into action. And because Van Stratten calls it a metaltron, doesn't he? He says, I've got a metaltron tied up in here.
That's it. Yeah.
So the Doctor doesn't suspect until till the lights turned on.
Yeah.
And then he really does, like you said, look scared.
But I like the fact that the Doctor at that point is immediately concerned and worried. As soon as he hears he's got a living piece, he's like, let me see it, you know. And from that point on, that's when the story really goes from kind of happy-go-lucky, you know, the Doctor and Rose, they're not too bothered about being captured by security at this point.
No.
And there's like some funny little to and fro's between Rose and this guy, and it's all quite light-hearted. And then when the Doctor, so that first scene then, when the Doctor's in that room with the Dalek, it's pretty damn good.
It is good.
How that scene was written, where you know, because you would have, I think, as a viewer and as a fan of Doctor Who, you would probably know that that's a Dalek from that blue light. So it's interesting the way they've done it, that the Doctor doesn't immediately know, that we have to wait until the Dalek speaks and the little lights light up and stuff.
I think what the thing is, and Chris does this brilliantly, that they're making, you know, in this they want to reinforce the fact that the Daleks are scary, because I think in the hiatus when Doctor Who was off air, they'd been licensed out to lots of different things like cereal manufacturers to be used in adverts, and they'd kind of become a bit of a joke, the Daleks. Not that sounds a bit harsh, but you know what I mean.
Yes,
so they wanted, you know, if they were going to bring the Daleks back, they wanted to make them, you know, the scariest monster in the universe again. And I think Chris sort of does that straight away in that scene. He looks terrified, and this Dalek's very different to what we've seen before. He's, you know, he can spin round and shoot 360, and he can hover upstairs, and he's, you know, he's got this sort of force field around him. This is a really, you know, for want of a better word, kick-ass Dalek that we've got. And quite different to sort of, if you think back to the Daleks in Remembrance, where they're wobbling down the streets, bless them. This is this is a terrifying Dalek. Yeah. Because they weren't going to let them, the Terry Nation estate weren't going to let them have the Daleks for Doctor Who when it came back, were they?
That's right.
There was a rights issue, you know. And I think it's because of that they said no, we've let it be used too much, and it's not scary anymore. You know, the sort of reputation of the Daleks is tarnished or whatever. And it's incredible to think that the Terry Nation estate were actually not going to let Doctor Who use the Daleks. And I'm glad that they changed their mind, because it would have been the Toclophane, you know. If they couldn't have got the rights to this, it would have been the Toclophane that we got to see much later on, which wouldn't have worked anywhere near as good as this.
No, not at all. No. And one thing to point out as well that I've just sort of mentally realised is that at this moment in time in the Doctor's life, time stream, whatever, as far as he's aware, the Daleks were exterminated. Excuse the pun.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't expect to see a Dalek at all, because as far as he's concerned, they were all wiped out in the Time War. So that's probably another factor there, that when he sees just even the blue light, he probably wouldn't immediately go to, oh, it's a Dalek.
Yeah,
because because he thinks they're all gone. So yeah, so the Doctor's he's just terrified and stuff, but then he very, very quickly turns to, when the Dalek starts kicking off and he's like, exterminate, but nothing's coming out of, he's basically been he's had the snip effectively. Oh, that's the only way I could describe it, really.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that.
So at that point the Doctor's very much like, aha, I've got you.
Yeah.
And then he turns very, very sort of school playground bullyish, is the way that I perceive him at that point, because he starts toying, he starts, being quite nasty and quite bullyish towards him.
Yeah, he's not very nice at all, actually. I'd forgotten about that.
Not at all,
Yeah, he's actually quite, he's quite nasty. But do you know what I love about that? Is that you get to see the Doctor that sort of would have had a fight in the Time War a bit there, don't you? Because that's the thing, even though this was right at the start and none of that stuff with the War Doctor and that was even even thought of, but you seeing the Doctor act like that to the Dalek and being really quite harsh, you can imagine him being the same person. I know it's a different Doctor now, but the same person that did what he did in the Time War. So I like that. You thought, wow, I'm seeing a different edge to the Doctor here. And Chris does that really well, I think.
Yeah, of course. And he actually goes nuts as well. He starts screaming and shouting at him, and then he throws on the electrocution switch and starts torturing him, and he's really not nice at all. And on one hand you can see why. The Daleks are an evil race, who just want to wipe out all life as we know it, and have done some pretty nasty things to his people, so you can see why. But then on the other hand, this Dalek is, he can't kill anybody. He's chained up. There's no real reason for the Doctor to go to town on him and start torturing him and stuff. So
so that kind of makes me wish Chris had come back for the 50th, because when you see him doing that, I can imagine him being the Doctor that wiped out both. I can think, I can see it in his Doctor that he would do that. And same with the bit at the end where he's got the gun. I think, this Doctor could have been pushed to that level.
Yeah.
Obviously, he didn't come back, so we got the War Doctor, who was fantastic. Again, no pun intended, but But I could see Chris's Doctor doing that, from this scene. I thought, he's got it in him. Mm-hmm. He's got a side to him that's just terrified and snapped, and he would do it. Yeah. He would push that button.
You can see it a couple of times in this episode, actually. You can see it's not just that one scene where he's probably still in shock a little bit that there's a Dalek still out there. But a couple of other times further on in the episode, he's not not that nice at all.
I'm just wondering if maybe that's why the Terry Nation estate had doubts. If the production team pitched them the idea, look, we've got this Dalek, he's had the snip. They were like, no, you're not using it. Maybe that's where it all went wrong and they had to change it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Support cast. Before we get on to the Doctor in some detail and stuff, supporting cast. Why do people hate Adam so much? I know why.
Why?
Because he's bloody annoying. He's useless wet flannel of a
He's a wet lettuce.
He is. So Adam Mitchell.
Bruno Langley.
Yeah. So what did they? I imagine that was pitched as a little love interest for Rose a little bit, because they do have like a little flirty scene when they first start talking, and he goes he goes off for another adventure, doesn't he? He's in the long game. He travels in the TARDIS with them. Yeah. But he's just a bit of there's no, he's played okay, I suppose, by Bruno Langley, but it was just a bit of a wet, like you say, a wet lettuce, really.
He's a bit cheesy, isn't he? The only good thing about the character is that Rose just although she does flirt with him, she kind of picks him up on the fact that he's just like, she's like, is that a chat up line? Do you know what I mean? That's the only good thing about it, is that she just has none of it.
Yeah.
But she kind of likes him. And I do like the doctor's reaction to him as well, about him joining him. He's like, well, he's a bit pretty, you know, and all that sort of thing. So he works in that respect. But Bruno Langley, a soap actor predominantly. It kind of shows. He's not terrible. He's not bad, but he kind of is. Just a bit. Yeah, he's all right. He's not terrible though, is he? He's not cringeworthy.
No, he's not
not a very good character.
Yeah, he's not got as, he hasn't got some of those Adric moments where it's just like, oh, It's
funny you mention that name, because I kind of was putting him in the same bracket for a while.
Yes.
Which, and I don't know why, but I kind of, Adric's name did keep popping up in my head as well. Just that sort of, I think it's more the character, that sort of slightly annoying, know-it-all, cheesy.
Yeah. Poor Adric.
And I love Adric, but
poor Adric. He never got to finish that equation, did he?
No, now we'll never know. No.
We'll never. So Adam, bit of a nobody, really. I can't really comment too much on him, because he's just.
It always surprises me that he joins them at the end in the TARDIS, though. I remember the first time I watched that thinking, what? Because obviously I didn't know back then that he was only going to be in, this one and the next one, and then he'd be gone. So I thought at the time, oh my God, we got him as a full-time companion. But the good thing is, in the next one, what he does is quite interesting. I mean, I don't want to skip on to the next story, but so for that sort of point of view, he's quite good, because he turns out to be a nightmare, doesn't he? And the Doctor gets rid of him in no uncertain terms. So, in that sense, it's quite good having him in it. But bit of a rubbish character.
What about Henry Van Statten?
Henry Van Statten,
what an annoying bugger he is.
He is. See, the thing is with this, because it's a one-parter, we kind of have to get to know the characters straight away.
Yeah.
So they are written a little bit cliche, and Henry Van Stratton's very much, you just know from the word go that this is just an arrogant, or I know you said a bad word, arrogant prat. He's just, you just know that straight away. So he's a little bit sort of cliche in the way he's written and performed and stuff, but it does work. It's, you just don't like him from the word go, but you're not meant to like him, are you? So
you're not supposed to, but I think, it's just Corey Johnson as well. I just find him a little bit, I don't know.
Is he American? I'm sure I've seen him in other stuff.
Yes,
when
he
he's
is,
not that. Oh, he is. All right, okay.
Yeah. He's.
Because there are a couple of accents in this where I was like, I'm not sure. That sounds a bit dodgy. No, I wasn't even sure if that was a proper American accent, but okay, it is. But there's a woman who's got an American accent as well, which clearly is a bit dodgy. And it's worse than mine, Gary. It's worse than mine. But
yeah, I found him just quite annoying. I mean, I know his character is meant to be this arrogant, kind of ignorant, just power hungry, thinks he can do whatever he likes to people. Because there's a bit, isn't there, where his first assistant just has her fired, memory wiped, and all the rest of it. So he's like he's on a power trip, isn't he, constantly? And what do you think there's concepts written in then that he's the owner of the internet?
See, I'd forgotten about that. I thought it was a bit silly, actually.
Yeah, because I think it's because they when they said it, because who else was in that scene at the time? Somebody said, "Don't be silly. Nobody owns it." I think it's Rose. She's like, "Nobody owns the internet," and then somebody says, "Well, that's what we want the world to think," kind of thing. It just seems a bit of a bizarre thing to. I mean, it's nothing.
No, I
too
thought
crazy about it, but it's. I just thought, oh, really? The owner of the internet.
Yeah, no, I didn't get that. The good thing about the fact that he's such an unlikable character is it's so good when the Doctor puts him in his place. I just, what I mean? Later on, there's some great scenes where the Doctor's just telling him straight. Yeah.
Do
you know that scene where the Stratton tortures the Doctor?
Yes.
Is a bit weird, but actually got quite a lot of complaints apparently. I mean, I did think when watching it, don't know, seeing Chris's scrawny body being zapped by a laser, it was a bit like, I don't know, it's just a bit off. Yeah. I mean, I didn't feel strongly enough to complain, but but I do love it when he turns the tables on him. He's just like, look, either you let me save them or you're all going to die. He's like, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't anything crazy though, because they labelled that the complaint wasn't it was sadomasochistic torture scene. It was. I mean, come on, they could have done a lot worse than
I've seen worse
than just scan him with an invisible pretend laser. So they could have done it. And he only had his top. He was just topless. You know, he still had his jeans on and everything. It wasn't like, and he wasn't whipped or shot or waterboarded or had his fingernails taken off with pliers or anything. It was just, you know, it was just scanned him with like this pretend X-ray machine, and they see he had two hearts. It was. I can't really see that.
Good old-fashioned laser.
The good old-fashioned X-ray laser. So I think that's just a bit of, you know, a bunch of whatless do-gooders just sitting around, nothing better to do. You know, they haven't put a complaint in for a while, so we better put one in now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to read too much into that at all. It's ridiculous. But, the rest of the supporting cast, just forgetful, really. No disrespect intended there, but
I was thinking actually, who else is there? But you're right, there are a couple of others. But no offence, but I'd forgotten they were in it. Yeah,
we've got his newer, you know, the assistant that takes over immediately after the first one's fired.
Oh, does she say something weird like thrown by the side, wipe his memory and thrown by the side of the road in a place beginning with S or something?
Beginning with M.
What's the relevance to that then?
Don't know.
What's? Oh, okay. I thought that was some sort of in joke that I'd completely missed.
Oh, so it is S. Yeah, beginning with S.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. I just wondered if it was just something I'd missed. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So she has a few lines, and she makes good at the end, if you like, because he is a bit of a bully. It's a bit one of those bosses where, you know, probably everybody complains about him behind his back and nobody likes him, and she kind of gives him his comeuppance at the end, doesn't she?
Yeah, which we're all waiting for. We all can't wait for him to get it. Yeah.
Which was very similar to the Caves of Androzani.
Oh, yeah.
Where his assistant, you know, she kind of takes over at the end, and, you know, it's always the assistant. You got to watch out.
Yeah, it's a good point. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, very good point.
So the rest of the cast don't really do anything, to be honest with you. They just follow the other actors around and throw in the odd line. The same with the soldiers as well. They don't really do anything of great significance.
But there is a great scene though, isn't there, where the Dalek shoots the fire extinguisher and then uses that to electrocute them all.
Yes,
which I thought was brilliant. And again, I'd completely forgotten about, because I was watching it. I thought I couldn't remember what he did when he just stops the Dalek and they're all ready to shoot him and stuff. I couldn't remember what was happening. So it was I liked that bit. I thought it was really just a good way of showing how this Dalek is not taking any nonsense, really.
I've got that in my notes, actually, yeah. It's I thought it was a great way of showing the Dalek's intelligence.
Yeah.
And his kind of his battle savvy, you know, combat savvy sort of creature. Because it would have been all too easy for him to just wheeled himself into that scene and just shot everybody, as like with normal lasers.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I thought he did, actually. That's why I was it was quite good, because in my head I was thinking, he just obliterates them all here. Yeah. And I'd forgotten he actually does that. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's very cool. So, yes, let's talk about... let's finish off with the Dalek and the Doctor and those few scenes which are so key to this episode. So we've spoken about the first one where the Doctor first encounters the Dalek and he goes from terrified to school bully and stuff like that. Then we have the scene where he's in Van Statten's office. So this is just after he's wiped out all of those soldiers. And that's the clip that I played a little while ago, which is just... The Dalek, for me, steals the show in that scene, because...
I'm assuming it's Nick Briggs, is it?
No, yes, it is, yeah. So the Doctor has basically said... Because he's still not letting up, is he? He still hasn't changed his mind on the Dalek. He still needs him to... Or still wants him to die.
Yeah. I think he can't think of any other way around it.
Yeah.
He knows what this Dalek's capable of. He's just thinking, well, the only way to solve this is for it to die.
Because I think he says something like, "What's the nearest town?" And he's like, something, and he's like, 1 million. They're all dead,
all gone,
gone, sort of thing. So yeah, you're right. He sees a way out as killing it, and there's no compromise. So there's that line though where he says, "Kill yourself," and then a little bit later he says, "You would make a good Dalek." That's the one line that just gets goosebumps up. It's just perfectly written, perfectly delivered. That you see that, and Chris Eccleston's acting as well. Doesn't have to say anything, just the look on his face of complete and utter shame.
Yeah, because he's seeing that the Dalek's basically saying, we are the same. He's like, we're the last of our race, and you're just doing what I'm doing. And it's like, it's a real, the Doctor can see that comparison.
He can, yeah. Because
it horrifies him.
Because he said that before in a scene earlier. He's like, I think it's that scene actually where he first encounters him. He's like, there are no other Time Lords left and no other Daleks. He's like, we're the same. And the Doctor flips out. He's like, we're not the same, blah, blah. And then later on, it's another comparison where the Doctor's basically doing what a Dalek would do. And that, so it's interesting that he turns the tables and makes the Doctor think, a little bit about his actions, really.
And kind of Rose does that as well, because we haven't really talked much about Rose, but Rose very much does that as well at the end, doesn't she? When she gets to see that this Dalek is, well, it's different because it's absorbed her DNA. So it kind of just wants to see the daylight, and it's really confused about what it's doing and everything. Yeah. So, when the Doctor comes around with that massive gun, she kind of says to the Doctor, take a look at yourself, Yeah. And I think Billy's really good in this, actually. Yeah. What she does.
Yeah. So that's the third scene that I was going to come on to where, so we've had the Doctor flipping out and gone nuts. Then we've had the Doctor still, on his case to kill him and stuff like that. Then we have that last scene where he turns up, with that massive gun. And he's still there. He's still, he's like, Rose, move out of the way, sort of thing. And that's what I mean. It's quite a sad ending because the casing's opened on the Dalek and you can see like the actual Dalek itself. And you're right, that scene is very, very key where Rose is like, look at yourself. Like the completely defensive Dalek, and you're the one standing here with like the huge gun. And it's touching. It really, really is touching, those final scenes where, because when Rose touches the Dalek, it's her DNA, isn't it? It's like the Dalek has kind of taken on those attributes of human DNA, isn't it? So he starts getting emotional and starts feeling stuff that he shouldn't.
And also it's plugged itself into the net and basically absorbed all that knowledge. So it's got it's got all that knowledge inside its head, which is obviously conflicting, making it, it's not a good Dalek by any means, but it's certainly making it question its actions. Which is why it doesn't kill Rose in that brilliant chase bit. When the Doctor cuts her off. Well, he doesn't mean to, but he's got to shut the door, isn't he? And she gets trapped on the other side of it. I love that scene, especially the fact he blames poor old Adam. He's like, what? You just left her behind. It's like, well, it wasn't really his fault, but
So that scene then. So before we finish up on the Rose stuff, like, because I was going to leave Rose till last, because for me, I think that she's like the most important character in this episode.
Okay.
For me, and I'll explain why. So that last scene then, where the Doctor's still wanting to kill the Dalek, and it's Rose at the very end there. She's the one that stops the Doctor from blasting it, completely. She's the one that makes the Doctor see sense almost. So, like we've had those three key scenes with the Doctor, we kind of have a similar thing with Rose. We have that first scene where she actually touches the Dalek and it brings it back to life with like this regeneration energy that she's picked up, I think, through just time travel.
Yeah.
Being in the TARDIS and stuff. And then the next one is that scene that you spoke about where the Dalek corners her but doesn't kill her, like he aims off and stuff like that. And it's almost, to me, it almost feels like she almost feels responsible for it. She almost feels like, because there was that bit where the Doctor confronts her and she's like, it's all my fault, it's all my fault. And she almost feels like she's created this monster. Not a monster in her eyes, because she can see some kind of conflict within it. But in terms of like Van Staten and all the soldiers, they think it's a monster. And then that scene at the end where she's having pretty much a good old chinwag with it, before it opens up the casing and stuff. And it's her conversation and it's her reasoning with the Doctor and making him see his actions and stuff like that. So I think Rose is the one in this episode that really is the key thing, because she creates the situation. She's the one that makes this whole mess. Not intentionally, but she's the one that creates this situation by bringing this Dalek back. Then she has the thing where she's questioning the Doctor's motives and his actions and stuff. And then we have the closing scene where, her conversation with the Dalek and the Doctor almost, makes the Dalek go off peacefully in the end, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm with you, yeah.
So that's my feelings on it. Although the Doctor is fantastic, again, excuse the pun, in these scenes with the Dalek, and he's really important, for me, it's Rose. Rose is the one that is like the key bit throughout the episode for me.
Yeah, no, I see your point. Yeah.
Sorry for waffling there, but yeah, that's. I
totally agree with you. Yeah, it's just because she's not in it that much. I've never really sort of thought about her significance in it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Actually, yeah, because I guess she is the pivotal point to it. Actually, yeah, it's funny because the brilliant thing about this story is that Rob Shearman manages to make the Daleks scarier than they've been in a long time, and certainly scarier than they've been in later episodes. And he also incredibly makes you care about a Dalek, which I don't think we've ever done before, particularly. Like, you really care about this Dalek. You almost feel sorry for it at the end.
You do.
Which is really quite incredible bit of writing to be able to do those two things in one script so well, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He's really scary, and you do also really care for him. So that's one of the reasons I think this script is just phenomenal.
It's
in that
great,
sense.
yeah. And if you don't feel anything for the Dalek at all, there's something wrong with you. If you don't have some kind of feeling of, if you don't pity it in some way or feel sorry or almost rooting for it at the end,
yes.
If you don't feel any of those things at the end, then this story and this script has probably been wasted on you. But it's very touching at the end that he takes his own life. And it's not like. I remember when I very first watched this episode, I almost thought it was going to be a Wizard of Oz thing, where the Dalek just starts melting in the sunlight or something, or something like that. But it's quite sad, really, where the casing all closes up, and then it's really good effect actually, where all those little balls from the casing form this like sphere around him, and then he just blows himself to.
What do you think that's such a great idea? I remember the first time I was seeing that thinking, what a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
To actually use those spears, whatever they are, that the Dalek has. Because, as I said earlier, we get a very different Dalek in this. There's lots of things. It's the same creature, but there are lots of things that they've ramped up and they've sort of really thought about it. Actually, we didn't mention the plunger as well, the fact that because it could, again, one of the things that over time was kind of become a bit of a joke. Oh, he's got a plunger on, and they actually really properly use that in a scary way in this, don't they? It sucks that guy's face, and it uses it to absorb the internet and stuff. So they really sort of looked at the Dalek design and ramped it up without changing it. I think it's brilliant. And when you said about the casing opening up and all that, it really does look great, and it's. Yeah, such a good idea.
It's great.
I love it. I think the effects stand up pretty well. As I said, there are one or two bits, I think, when it's levitating that perhaps, maybe look a little bit dated. But overall, the effects in this are pretty good. The casing opening is great. The bit where the bullets are flying towards its force field in slow motion still looks brilliant to this day.
Good. Yeah.
I think they actually stand up pretty well overall.
Yeah, that was a cool scene, actually, that I forgot to mention, where he's at the bottom of the stairwell, and Adam and Rose, much like us watching it, really, are very much like, he's stumped. Mm-hmm. And then when he shouts out, is it levitate?
Levitate.
So that was great. And it was, and he uses that again, doesn't he, when that scene where he's attacking all the soldiers, he just levitates up and shoots the sprinkler system and stuff. Yeah, very, very good. And like you said earlier, I'm really glad that they allowed the Daleks to come back into the show, because it wouldn't have worked at all with any other monster in this episode. So, So overall, then, mate, I think we're in agreement. It's a really good Dalek story.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it, and I don't know. Have you ever listened to Rob Shearman's? It was kind of like based on Jubilee, the Big Finish story by Rob Shearman. And I don't know, have you ever listened to that?
No.
It's one of the early ones. I think it's in the first 50 of the range. It's a great story. I mean, it's Big Finish, so you know it's quality. And it's kind of like, basically there are elements that are the same as this. Basically, Rob Shearman took the idea that he had in that story, Jubilee, and then reworked it quite a bit to turn out to be this story. But it's worth going back and listening to Jubilee as well, because that's with Colin Baker. And you can definitely see the similarities. Like, he goes and finds this Dalek trapped in I think it's a castle. It's a long time since I've listened to it, but
Okay.
But yeah, it's worth going out and checking that out as well, because I would love to see Rob Shearman come back and write more for Doctor Who.
Absolutely,
I think he's I think he's a really good writer.
Yep. So we are scores. What are scores on the doors?
Who's first this
It's
week?
you this week, buddy.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, easy one for me. I'm giving it 9 out of 10.
Same as me.
Yeah.
9 out of 10.
I there's very little to fault in it. Very, very little. I think it's a great story.
Yeah, really good. What did you guys think? Let's do some audio immediately. This is Matt Rowney from Who Addicts.
Dalek is without doubt the best Dalek story of modern Who, and is in the top 5 of all time. It is an incredible episode written by Robert Shearman. The return of the most famous and most deadly villain in Doctor Who history, the Daleks, and he could not have brought them back in a more perfect way. This one single solitary Dalek managed to be written more threatening, more deadly and more dangerous than all of the Daleks that have followed ever since. All of the fleets, all of the armies that have followed in every episode since Dalek have paled in comparison to the Dalek in this. It walked through armies of people, gunmen, soldiers, and it shot them down. It didn't hesitate. It was so full of hatred. It was just amazing. It is everything that the Daleks are all about. And the Doctor was also just amazing. It was the 9th Doctor's greatest episode with his greatest scene when he confronted the Dalek about the Time War. It was like roles reversed. The Doctor almost seemed like he was the dangerous villain that had lost its mind. It was an incredible scene by the both of them, and I think personally the greatest Doctor-Dalek confrontational scene of all time. Rose was also very good in this. I like how she got stuck in the danger. I really did care for her. And the end was a really nice twist, seeing the beautiful side of the Dalek, and that it was faced with the fact that, like the Doctor, it was all alone and that it had no other members of its species, and it committed suicide. It was so heartbreaking. The fact that we could go from hating this deadly creature 1 minute to then feeling sorry for it the next is credit to how good Robert Shearman's writing was. So, for me, Dalek is the best episode of Series 1, the best Dalek story in Modern Who, and it's up there with being the best of all time, and I personally don't think it will be beaten ever in Modern Who. I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10.
Cheers, Matt.
Good stuff.
Some really good some thoughts there, buddy. And sometimes I edit these clips down if they go on for more than sort of a minute 20 seconds, but I thought Matt had so many good points there. So I didn't edit it, but yeah, thanks, buddy. Some really good stuff, and I think I'd agree with him. I think it's probably one of the best Dalek stories of Doctor Who, certainly Modern Who.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think I would agree.
Yeah. Let's go to Facebook. Dean Jones. He says, a great Dalek story and easily the best of the modern era Dalek stories, as well as Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways. Chris Feckleston gives a terrific performance, and the scenes with the Dalek are genuinely compelling. Would love to see Robert Shearman write for the show again. He gives it 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Christopher Law. An absolutely fantastic story. Arguably the best Dalek story of the modern era. Having only started watching Doctor Who with Rose in 2005, I had no idea what the Daleks were, and Eccleston's fantastic performance made me wonder about the past the Daleks and the Doctor shared. The whole episode was great, one I often go back and rewatch. An instant classic, 10 out of 10. Cool. More audio. This is Joe Sweeney.
Hello, Gary and Adam. Hope you boys are well. The Dalek story, I thought it was a perfect way to start off with the very first episode of the revival series with the bang. So anyway, the story was very good. It did have a great pace to it. Eccleston's and Piper's performance was brilliant, and there was loads of intense moments with Eccleston's Doctor when he was showing anger towards the Daleks, and you see how much a time war really affected him. So I thought his Doctor was written so perfectly, and also I'm amazed how much the Daleks have changed over the generations, and I really love their designs, their golden titanium and their blue eye stalk. And also I thought it was a good episode, so I'll give the Dalek an overall score of 8.5 out of 10. Hope you enjoyed the podcast, guys, and hope you have a great weekend. Take care for now. Bye bye.
Thank you, Joe.
Cheers, Joe.
Some more good points there. Let's do some more audio. This is Alex Kingdom.
Now, Dalek is one episode that could go either way. You either love Dalek or you hate Dalek. Well, that's around my family anyway. I know everyone around the community loves Dalek, but everyone in my family seems to hate Dalek. I am against my family, get this one. But Dalek is exactly what a Dalek story should be. When the Dalek, a Dalek, not the Daleks, a Dalek is merciless and will stop at nothing to kill anybody. He killed at least a whole base, pretty much. But overall, it's a really good story that I find. I also like the claustrophobic. It's very claustrophobic in a way, because there's no way they can get there. And also the worst bit about this episode is blimmin' Adam. Who likes Adam? Tell me if you like Adam. Hopefully you don't. See you later.
Not a fan of Adam in that one.
He does mean Adam in the show, does he not?
Well,
we don't know.
We don't know, do we? Back on Facebook, Scott Stearns. I remember liking this on the first watch, and it's still enjoyable. Eccleston is a very manic Doctor, which I like. Rose had something to do, so a plus. The Dalek sunning itself was creepy, sad, and interesting all at the same time. I think my big problem with the episode is that every Dalek/Doctor interaction seems to harken back to the ideas explored in this episode now, which frankly seems a bit lazy and boring. I like the nod to remembrance of the Daleks with the stare issue, but I kept wondering when somebody was going to find some nitronine or a grenade to deal with the Dalek, as the bullets were just foolish. He gives it 7.5.
All right, okay.
Lewis Palmer. I haven't watched this in a long time, but I remember it being superb and a great way to introduce the Daleks to the new series. The scene with Eccleston first meets the Dalek shows how great an actor he is. This is how you do a modern Dalek story. Tom Dix, he says, this was the story that introduced me to the show. Oh. Before this, my parents kept me away from it as they thought it was stupid, so my siblings decided to pin me down on my bed and make me watch it. I'm so glad they did, as it is one of my favourite stories. The chemistry between Nine and Rose is utterly brilliant, and seeing him so afraid was both exhilarating and heartbreaking at the same time. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 from Tom.
Yes, and good luck with your job interview, Tom. Sammy Satine, she says, I find the idea of someone collecting aliens interesting, but makes me feel a bit sorry for the aliens. Nice Bad Wolf reference. Bad Wolf 1 Descending. Van Staten is a bit full of himself and obviously has quite a bit of money, but he changes his attitude during the episode and you begin to like the guy a bit. The confrontation between Nine and the Dalek is just amazing. The fear the Doctor has when he first sees it, and then the range of emotions he displays after that is incredibly well done. I do have to admit the fact that the Dalek shows more emotion than just the standard hate. Seeing it just kill is something I feel has been missing for a few years. The scene when the Doctor confronts the Dalek with a gun is amazing. Also find the Dalek questioning itself interesting, and it asks Rose, how does it feel? Interesting. Physiology of the Dalek is an interesting thing to observe. I think Chris Eccleston does a brilliant job as the Doctor, and I like Billy as Rose too. She gives it a 9 out of 10.
Excellent.
Very short and sweet from Adam Peddy. In my opinion, it's the best 9th Doctor episode.
Wow.
Let's finish off with audio. This is Jay Kent.
Greetings, Gary, Alof, and Adam Charlton.
And hope you're well. Now, Dalek was the perfect reintroduction to the classic species, not only to show the Dalek's terrifying nature, but also the Doctor's dark side, brilliant characters such as Van Stassen, the wonderful plot and setting, and the whole storyline as a whole. There was also Adam. Anyway, this episode, along with the Series 1 finale, are the new Daleks at their best. The monstrous, savage element that hasn't been seen in a while, and it's beautiful. The Dalek's death was touching, and Nine's Vengeance side is chilling. I'd give this episode a well-deserved 8 out of 10. And one more thing. The Daleks survive in me! Sorry. Sore throat, I think. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the episode, guys. Well done.
Cheers, Joe.
Yeah,
Jay.
Ever entertaining, Jay.
That's fantastic.
Thanks
you
a
need
lot,
to get
buddy.
some strepsils.
Indeed, mate. Did you have anything over on Geeks Handbag stuff?
I did, yeah. I got one on my Instagram, so I must remember this one because this chap hasn't got Facebook or Twitter. So the Who Hub said, Dalek is one of the finest stories that has come out of the modern Who, I think, as it was one of the earliest stories I saw when I first got into it. It holds a special place in my heart. The story of a lone Dalek works superbly in the story and built up more mystery surrounding the Time War and helped to bridge the gap with classic Who. As I said, one of the best stories, a definite 8.5 out of 10.
Cool.
So thank you, the Who Hub, on Instagram. Cool. On Facebook, we had a few. Ben Smith says the best Dalek story of the revived era easily. A lot of people saying that.
Yep.
Chris is fantastic, and the Dalek shows what an incredible threat they are. I'd love for Shearman to come back. 10 out of 10. Chinibble, get Shearman back. Brian Anthony says one of the very first episodes I ever watched. A few people saying that.
Yep.
The acting, script, and plot was great. I especially love Chris's acting when he's alone in the room with the Dalek. Although really he's talking to a metal prop, he acted it as if it was real.
Yep.
Evil mutant that ruined his life. And for him to be able to show such emotion in that scene, it just shows what a great actor he is and proves he's certainly a great Doctor. So Ryan's given it 8 out of 10.
Agree with that. Nice one.
Harry Westergaard says, Gary, Adam,
Hey,
brilliant
Gary.
story. This one and the parting of the ways, I can't do the accent, so is one of my 2 favourite new Who Dalek stories. I agree, I love Parting of the Ways as well. Finn Walsh, absolutely love this story. Brilliant script, a pure 10 out of 10. And Adam Time Lord Fishwick says, a brilliant story.
Aha.
So yeah, no negatives, Just realise that. Normally, we get a bit of, bit of this, bit of that. I think everything's positive on this one.
That's a good point, actually, yeah.
Yeah, that's very rare.
Yes. Nice one, Robert Shearman.
Yeah, well done.
I would really like him to come back and write some more,
Yes.
It would be very good. Very good indeed. So thank you very much, guys, for sending in your audio clips and thoughts on whatever social channel ticks your box.
We'll be getting some on Snapchat soon.
Yes. So I think overall, unanimously, Dalek is a great modern Dalek story. And possibly one of Eccleston's best.
I was just thinking how many he actually did have some really good stories, considering he only done one series.
Yeah.
There's some really good stuff in there,
Yeah.
when you think about it. And
Absolutely.
This is right up there.
And I think he's often overlooked as well. I think he shares that space with McGann.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of, I'm not talking about Big Finish now, I'm talking about just literally on screen. I think McGann is overlooked as a phenomenal Doctor. And I think he has that, I was going to say fantastic again.
I know, it's hard not to, isn't it?
And I think Eccleston shares that a little bit, where he's such a great Doctor, but he gets overlooked quite a lot. But there we go. Maybe he'll come up on Big Finish one year. That'd be good. So we've got a very interesting story to review next week, haven't we?
Oh, yes.
This one's going to be a very quirky, interesting review, to say the least. What are we doing next week, mate?
I'm very much looking forward to this. Next week, we're doing the 7th Doctor story, Delta and the Bannermen.
Delta.
Yeah, so we're off to the holiday camp. I can't wait.
So I think in terms of Sylvester McCoy stories, I think we're very, very much looking forward to your views on this one. listeners. So please, when you see the Facebook post or Twitter, whatever it is you want, just jump on and tell us what you think of that one. Be very interested to hear your thoughts on Delta and the Bannermen.
Yes.
And I think we're going to wrap for 75 there, buddy.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, it's dancing away there.
We always start. That's what I was laughing at when we started the podcast. Is because me and Gary always dance like loons at the beginning of the show and the end.
We do.
Yeah.
Almost like an ood that's gone rabid.
There's an ood loose. I bet this huge.
There's an ood on the loo. So that's episode 75. Thank you very much for sticking with us. So we'd like to hear your thoughts on the whole Moffat Chibnall thing. To just jump on Facebook or Twitter and let us know, because I think that's going to be a subject that's going to be up for discussion a lot over the next year and a half.
Yes.
As
a lot
more
of time to absorb it, haven't we?
Yeah, as more information comes through for that, and as always, when we hear stuff, we will let you guys know. And next week, yes, Delta and the Bannermen. That's going to be a cracking one. So just look out for the Facebook post. Normally on a Sunday or a Monday night, whichever. Or if Facebook doesn't float your boat, just use Twitter or Snapchat or Instagram or whatever you like. You know, pigeon carrier, whatever you like.
Oh, I was thinking, is that an app? I think it's just a new one that I don't know about.
Or just email us. Just good old-fashioned email if you like.
Yeah.
Just
send us a letter.
Yeah.
Oh no, we haven't got an address.
Email just hello@bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. That'll do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, speaking of the website, jump over there. You can listen to all the previous episodes. bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can also jump off and subscribe on iTunes and such wonderful stuff. And speaking of iTunes and stuff, if you could give us a review in iTunes, that would be fantastic. Also, check out Adam's channel on Facebook and YouTube, The Geek's Handbag.
The Geek's Handbag.
The famous Geek's Handbag. So, the latest video. Very, very cool.
Yeah, it took me a while to get it out, but yeah, it's hopefully it was worth the wait. The Peterborough event, it's a good one, that.
Movie Fest, right?
TV Movie Fest, yeah. And John Levine giving me a very... he said about doing this video for me. I was like, yeah, brilliant. And I've never got much memory on my phone. And as he was going, it went on longer than I thought. And all I could think of, this is going to cut out any minute. But I managed to get most of it, I think, the last few seconds. But yeah,
cool.
Peterborough video. Next week, not this week, next week, got fantastic, and it is a fantastic unboxing video of the fantastic collection of Titans.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I got a few of them, so I've just unboxed them. And yeah, Adam's in that set. You'll have to tune in to see if I manage to get that collectible figure.
Nice one. So check out the Geek's Handbag. Plenty of stuff.
Friday, yeah.
So, buddy, until next week, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember... Allons-y!